We've had a bit of a flat day, but it has been trickling up since the morning's low of 67, trickled up sideways, and now we've just returned to the open again. So potential here for something to set up somewhere on these three, but we'll have to see. Nothing as yet. Interested to see how Nasdaq handles this 40 area. Just keeping an eye on Nasdaq here. Come up to the 51 and touch down at the 41 here. Got some tempo. Interesting to see what it might do here. Gold is just tunneling dead in the water. Crude is just broken past its morning open. Price discovery come up to the 67.67. Nasdaq failed to complete its touchdown and is now leaning up again. Hey puss. Had a spill out to the top side and is now back down at the 49. Spilled out to 57. I'd like to see it come down now to 41 and see what happens. Quite a shallow structure though. The cat has joined us. This is a great example of me being tempted to jump in on a down move here. The structure had broken. It really ought to have already come down, and the fact that it's hovered longer here means the tempo's out and the rhythm's not established itself and the structure is broken. However, these candles here were tempting me into jumping into a move to the downside. If that had happened, I would have taken a trade that wasn't in my plan. As it happens, price is just tunneling around 52, 51. I shouldn't feel vindicated that a move that I was tempted to take didn't work out, especially as that move was only an irrational, emotional move and not a thought out, calm, reasoned move, which is the type of trading I want to do. I may never really listen back to this recording, but I need to get these out of my mind and into the real world. Keeping an eye on crude here. Spilled out for price discovery up to the 67. Come back down to the 59 or the 60. We're now back down to the 60. Could easily see a return back to the day's range. Okay, so on crude here, I've noticed that we've got a 67 level. Tagged it first thing in the morning, again in the afternoon. 67.50, 67.49, 67.50. Ceilinged here at 67.55. We've now come and tagged it again here at 52, 54. Interesting to see what might happen. Not my plan, but still interesting. Nasdaq coming down again to tag this 41 area, or to attempt to anyway. Come down to tag the 40. I have a desire to go long here obviously, but that's not my plan. And the reason why it's not my plan is exactly because this is just too random. Formation breaking, changes in volatility. Yes, this is all consolidation, but I want to see my rhythm and my structure. It's rare to see it. It's rare to see consistently profitable traders as well. I don't know if I'm being too discriminating, but time will teach me. At the moment, I'd prefer to get used to being too discriminating and spending a lot of time just watching and focusing on that detachment. Seeing a volatility change, tempo change in gold here. Arguably some structure, but nothing solid. Crude has returned comfortably back into the range. Nasdaq has broken past its previous low, sitting at the 40, the 38. Okay, nothing much has happened. Nasdaq couldn't hold the 40 and is coming down, testing this high of the day's previous top. Gold is sitting around 57.3, and the crude, no setups coming anytime soon. Looks like Nasdaq has breached that 36 level, 37 level, and is continuing. Wonder if it will make it all the way to the 600. Crude is also coming down after its peak. It's nice to think that I could have had this short here, but realistically there was no rhythm and structure and all the rest of it. Simply a quick bet against a breakout. It's not my current plan. That's not to say that my current plan is the best plan. It's just the only plan I have. So what's the point in having one if you can't see it through? Any time in the charts isn't wasted, as a wise man said. Nasdaq's come back down into the day's range, and we've found 1284 twice. Sorry, 615 a couple times. Just hover here for a bit. Crude has almost come all the way back down to the bottom of its day's range after making that top peak, and gold is sitting at the 56. It's wick floor here from earlier on. None of these is my setup, but it is interesting to see how gold might behave here at the 56. Crude, I think, is just gonna carry on doing what it wants for tonight without me. I'll keep an eye on it. I'm looking at gold and I'm looking at Nasdaq at the moment. Gold is the 55.6, 55.7 level. Bounced a couple of times before, wicked past it. Similar story on Nasdaq. We've come up to the 32, 35 is earlier in the day's ceiling. This 611, 615 area is in the center of today's range. Interesting levels, but nothing concrete yet. Coming back up to the 36 on Nasdaq again. Still no discernible structure here. It's just the mere price action. Sorry, the mere price number of 36 peaking up from today's ceiling before the spill out. Gold again has sat down at the 55.6. Had a little topple up and a little spill out to the bottom as well. Crude has settled down here at the 67.12, 67.21 area. There could be something here developing on crude if I'm lucky. Crude's broken down to the downside here, so didn't have very strong push up on the second move here, so the structure was poor, the tempo wasn't quite there, but it was looking promising. I've just realised that 8 o'clock is the news event. I said that earlier, and I was wondering why the hell gold was going mental. I think I'll probably stop there for tonight. I don't know how long this news event goes for, but typically my setups take too long to... So we've got no news today. Nasdaq came down to the 440, recovered, did some lovely ranging between 4 and 6, came down and has now recovered. We had some nice direction in the mornings, some strong consolidation, and now a little bit of direction to come back up, but not with much conviction as the morning. On crude, we've been moving sideways since 5 o'clock, and we're in a bit of a range with poor structure, but some semblance of rhythm and tempo there. Just not very well defined. Between the 53 down here, 52, 53, and 61 sort of area, 63 sort of area. Gold has been trickling down today, made a new low at 84, 684, has recovered and is sitting at the 873. Recent peak 887. Could see it come up there, might rotate. And then silver, which is the new thing, has been trickling down. It's now making a new low for the day. It's retesting its previous low for the day. So no setup just yet. We'll see. Crude is the closest thing to looking hopeful, but it's very sketchy at the moment. Came down to the 52 and has recovered. Could sit in this range for a bit. 52, if we came up to the 62 perhaps, 63 area, that might be an entry there, but we'll see. Silver's broken below its previous low for the day. It's come down to the 520. Crude is sitting in the middle of its range here. I'd like to see at least 61 on crude. Structure is not as poetic and symmetrical as I'd like. Nasdaq's pulled back from its advances and is now sitting at the top of the previous day's range bracket, just at the top side, sitting at the 520. sort of area. That was a lovely bit of price action in the middle of there. Crude has just broken down past out of its range and is coming to meet its fourth attempt at the bottom of the day's range at 68.43. The lowest was the 40. Silver's also making new lows. None of my trades look like they're coming anytime soon. I'm sure a different type of wizard would be finding things, but not the Tim wizard. The lizard wizard. Crude has met the bottom again, down here at the 42. So this wasn't my play here, because it was such a long stretched out rhythm. But that structure, that fade made a lot of sense, and in some ways it ties in with my philosophy. Well, in many ways really. Fading here would have been quite in line with my philosophy, just not in line with the specific setup that I keep looking for. I am developing an edge, or maybe perhaps the potential for more than one edge or setup. But yeah, fading this breakout would have made sense to me. I'm happy I didn't take it, but still, I was fiddling with colours on a screen, which is silly. Crude has returned to the range after a spill out to the bottom of a retest to the low of the day. See where it comes from here. At 53 and the 63. Gold is coming down to make a push for the low of day at the 842, 843, 842. We're back at the low of day, and we've fallen out below it at the same time as silver. Crude is struggling to regain its rhythm from before. Silver and gold keep pushing lower, and Nasdaq is sat squarely in the center of its afternoon range. I'm not seeing any setups really, none of my out of range setup anyway. Silver's having a strong directional day. I've never ruled out having some sort of directional trade idea, but they happen so rarely because the conditions are so rare that I've never really practiced how I would approach doing it. Always seems like the wrong time to enter. Ended up entering on silver but without a stop loss or a take profit because I hadn't set it up. My main goal is still emotional detachment from price action and the outcomes of trades. My number one goal. My second is developing my edges, whatever they may be, but my mindset and approach emotionally and mentally is, in terms of the long term, the key for what will get me where I want to be and behaving as the trader I want to be. Crude has just broken through the low of day and Nasdaq is at the bottom of its afternoon range. I should probably close the silver trade as I don't have a profit or stop loss. I'm just going to do it now. I don't mind if it keeps going without me. Silver is bigger than gold. What did I get just there? Am I missing something? Well, that was a good time to get out. That was lucky. I think that came right back to my entry. Nasdaq has returned to the bottom of the afternoon range. Is rotating around the 490. Crude has come back up to test the bottom of the day's range again after spilling out slightly, coming up to the 6840 area. Again, strangely, this would almost qualify. Well, not really, but this is questionable whether or not this is in my philosophy here, as a fade of this breakout is sort of what I would lean towards. However, the structure is spread out over such a long period and there's no rhythm, it's just structure. So I'll have to leave it. Just watch. The structure is shifted in crude, I think now. We're establishing a new part of the spectrum. Nasdaq has broken past its previous lower bracket from lunchtime and is testing its first spill out from the earlier. Let's see if it holds here at the 480, 475 area. Silver's looking very thin and patchy, the same way crude does towards the end of the day. I think I'll stop the recording here and break it up into another recording. My silver trade looks like it still would have held. I'm not really sure what kind of brackets I'm supposed to use for that, for silver. It seems quite wild. It's sort of like the Nasdaq compared to the golds being the ES. Okay, here's the second recording. After my epic legendary win on silver, which makes me amazing, I need to remember that I'm trying to disentangle my emotions from my trade outcomes and price action, regardless of how unstoppably epic I am. I'm joking. Silver is still maintaining its directional bias. This is quite interesting because I've been talking with ChatGPT about how on earth I could introduce a logical setup which is grounded in the same principles as my range trade, or my ought trade, I guess, bracket trade, I don't know what to call it. The rhythm structure tempo trade, which is RST, I don't know, whatever. The range bound trade, because that relies on clear consolidation that is settled into a rhythm, which is so clear that the probability is heavily in your favor if you enter correctly. That scenario not only requires a certain type of day, but also a certain moment in that day, and even then it requires the right further conditions. An example here would be on the crude between 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock. This is the area in which such a trade could have taken place, but if we actually look on the chart, we never got that structure just quite how I wanted it. It was still too sporadic. However, if we were to look here on the Nasdaq between 4:30 and 6, then here we've got the structure that we're looking for, and tempo. Fade here could have been possible. A fade here could have been possible. Fade here could have been possible. Potentially even a fade here could have been possible. Still not perfect, but I think it illustrates my point. It was just a car crash outside. Okay, that's basically the end of that. The car crash took up the rest of the evening. I might just rewatch this tomorrow morning. Okay, we're back. Hopefully the new display setup isn't too mental. Silver is back up to the open after a push down. Came to the 540, 565 sort of area. Came back up to the open, tested the 750, sorry. Had a bit of a range going on around the 750 with a couple of peaks at 770, but not very good structure or rhythm. Crude came up for a double test of the 6905, 6903, and has made its way back. Had a bit of a pause at the 6882, come down from the first test of 69, second test, broke through, and now we're consolidating down here at rotating around 68 at the 73, 70 area, 73, 79, 73 to 80. Nasdaq's had a big push up, gapped up this morning and then come back down, it looks like, to test yesterday's low, and then is sort of just rotating around there. Everything looks a bit grey on all fronts at the moment. Tonight's main goal, as always, is to be detached from any moves, any trades, any price action. Seeing a effort at rhythm developing in crude here, but the structure isn't matching with it. The tempo is there, but the structure is a bit too sporadic. It's topped out at 77 a couple times. Silver's come back up to its after a little spill out to the center of its previous range. Still no strong play either direction. Crude is sat back down close to the 70. A lot of indecision. Seen gold have a bit of a range here around the 6 o'clock area. Dropped down, but hasn't continued down, has found a new range, but they're very narrow ranges and just not much conviction for any of the factors yet. So out of all the four markets, I can't see anything developing anytime soon. That's of the quality that I'm looking for. All four markets have got a lot of work to do before any kind of development might occur. It's going to be one of those sessions. Crude is hovering at the bottom of its bracket. Just keeping an eye on gold here. It's tagged to the 17.7 and come away a couple times now, bouncing up to 18.9 or the 19. A bit of structure there. The tempo is all over the place, but the rhythm is there. Don't think it's a clear trade. On the crude, it's still holding at the bottom of the bracket. We're still at the 70. It broke down to 66, sitting at the 70. Not very much action there. Silver has come down from its return to the morning peak at 760, taking a few bounces off the top, sitting down at 695 now, 700. Nasdaq is coming down, having another look at 4850. That's quite a long-term play here of the bounces, and the structure and the rhythm is all over the place. So that's not really my trade, but it's still interesting to watch, see what happened there. Crude has taken a bit of a bounce off that level, coming up to the 74, and gold has had a weaker move to the bottom bracket, coming back up to the 19. Just looking at gold, it wouldn't be too bad a trade if it was just better, had better rhythm and structure. Weakness to the downside. It's just too flat and picky at the moment. Got Nasdaq sitting down at the day's low, 451, 450, came down to 445 before. Saw crude come back up and tag the 76 briefly before sitting back in the center. Just need to give markets some time to shuffle up. A little bit sluggish, all of them at the moment. No setups on the horizon just yet. See how far it could go. Maybe down to the 17.8. The focus is detachment, remember. Gold came down and wicked to the 17.5, sitting at the 17.8. See how it behaves here. Nasdaq is coming down to tag the low of day again. Gold on 17.5. I have a desire to take a long position on gold at the moment, but the setup is all over the place. The structure is poor, the rhythm and tempo. None of what I want is being shown, so if that goes up, it's going to go up without me. And if it comes down and breaks out to the downside, I'm not going to congratulate myself either. Nasdaq is hovering at the day's low again. It's just met a bit of a floor there. It's just been ranging. Its current range is very crowded. It's closer to a tunnel really, but worth keeping an eye on. Again, this meets my philosophy but not my factors for a fade here. Just acknowledging that. Crude has broken formation in all of its factors. Still going sideways, but it's got no symmetry at all anymore. It's just doing what it wants. Silver's in a bit of a range here, but it's so sporadic. There's a lot of gaps on silver, which makes it hard to see the rhythm. Nasdaq is still sitting at the bottom of its range. Crude is back down at the bottom of its range again after that spill out to the upside. Looks like it's just broken past the bottom bracket into the zone of confusion. Gold is the closest one being in a tradable position, but it's still too sporadic. If we could come up to the 19 and settle there for a second, there could be something, potentially. The rhythm is really just not there. I'm being very picky. Nasdaq looks like it's settled at the 41 despite a bit of a spill out. We'll see if it can hold. Okay, gold's approaching the 19. We'll see how it behaves here. 19.5, 19.1, then returns sharply back into the range. Okay, we've seen a shift in the price action. Not very rhythmic or structural sideways movement, but hinting at it. And we've just seen a breakout to the upside. The spectrum has shifted. I suppose gold has nearly earned its place, but didn't quite get there. So perhaps next time. Silver is coming up to meet its 750 level from earlier, spills out to 770. See what happens here at 750, but there's no rhythm for this range. This is just a test of a level. After a slight spill out from the bottom of the range on Nasdaq, it's sat back at the 450, and the crude is a bit of a mess right now. It's all a bit of a mess right now. Gold has come back into the previous range that it had only just departed from, of which the ceiling was 20.8 or so. See how it behaves. Silver and gold have both done the same, coming up to meet a previous ceiling for the day. Seen these returns to the range after retesting the top on gold and silver. Quite a quick turnaround as well. Nasdaq is still rotating at the bottom of the day's range around the 50 level, 450, and it looks like crude is coming to test its 64 bottom again, looking strong on the downside. Silver's coming back down to its bottom here at 690. Still don't see a setup arriving anytime soon on any of the instruments. Silver looks too frail. I did enjoy watching these range boundaries getting respected though on gold and silver. There was no entry for them really, but still. Nasdaq has been floating around the 450, the 445 and the 450 area, coming as low as 436. And crude has come back to test the high of its morning range at the 68.55. We're currently tunneling at 58. Still no real movements anywhere. Nasdaq has broken out to the downside, but not with any kind of vigor. Gold has sat back down at the bottom of its range from before, down at the 17.5, 17.8 level. It doesn't really have any rhythm or structure from before, but it is holding that level down there, 17.5. No setup for a trade, but interesting to see what it's doing now that silver is ripped further down. It looks like crude is coming to try and test a low of day, but it's back at the open. Nasdaq is pushing further lower, making new lows for the day. Struggling to keep my eyes open. Nasdaq is coming down to meet the 400 level. Gold is stuck at the 18. Looks unlikely that anything's going to set up for tonight. Nasdaq came down to tag the 400, bounced up to the 410, and now it's just flicking around. There's a lot of tunneling going on in gold, but it's hovering around the 18 level. Looks like we've come and tested the 17.1 on gold a couple times now. Came up to the 18.9, nearly touched 19 again. Just the same as before, but it was very brief. Still no rhythm or structure. My three factors are still sort of not part of it. Gold has given it a good effort today, trying to create some balance between the three factors, but it just didn't quite meet it for me. I think I'm happy to leave it there for tonight. Yes, I can't see anything developing in the next 20 minutes or so. I don't know. Could have been something there. I think that was a junk trade, really. Just looking at it with this wider point of view made me realise, well, the restricted letterbox view wasn't very helpful. Still, shouldn't have entered. Considering bailing here for a scratch. Just missed my target by 1 tick or so. The market doesn't owe you anything, remember. I'm going to cut it. Bail with a scratch. And there it goes. Alright, I'm going to finish there for tonight. I need to figure out my screen layout. Beneath, actually, the 759, 57, down again to the 750. There's 3 tags at the 750. Silver came up to the 130, down to the 960, 110 to the 3300. Sideways action on both of them at the moment. Grey, although gold doesn't look too bad. Crude oil is moving sideways after touching up at the 7004, 7008, 70 sort of area. It's come down to 69.82. And Nasdaq has had a very lazy drift up all day with sporadic steps, shallower advancements every time. Nothing looks like it's on the horizon yet. Nasdaq's showing some weak sign of structure here, not very developed. Tempo was in here a bit, but divulging into more sporadic move. It has generally been pushing up all day, so that does influence things, but there is some rhythm coming here. Just keep an eye on it, I suppose. Came up to this 95 level, tagged it. Came up to 93.5, tagged it. Came down again. Tempting move, got in at a poor price. We'll see. I think I was pushing my luck with this one. I did have a much better option for a price though. Main goal is emotional detachment, not indifference, but to de-entangle my emotions from these outcomes and to try and take the best prices. Got stopped out to the tick there, looks like. And it's still rotating around the top. Tempo's shifted here. I think that was still a good trade. I got a poor price. Got pulled in at 90 when I could have got somewhere closer to 93, which would have given me a better stop loss and more chance to get out. The tempo and rhythm have shifted now, so I don't think I'm going to be looking for an entry here. I don't think the price I got was the worst for this trade, but if I take a step back, the structure was a bit too sporadic. We had one range and then a crowded another range straight afterwards, and if the had moved down, this is just a little bit too crazy, I think, perhaps. In some ways it was close to my ideal. It wasn't the best. I think I knew that at the time. Crude has come back up to the peak of its day at the 705, 70.05 sort of area, sitting at the solid 70 at the moment. Nothing tradable here, but still, gold is just rotating around the high of day again here at the 58. Crude sitting at the high of day again, just popped up to make a new high and then is now sitting back down at the ceiling from before at 705 at the 05, came up to the 09. Similarly with gold, it's made a new peak, rammed up against it a couple times and now it's dropped down. It's in the middle of the afternoon range. This crude here is attempting trade to come back into the consolidation area, but this is a long tempo without good rhythm or structure. This Nasdaq trade is interesting me because we were consolidating, but in a sporadic manner during a day in which there was repeated step ups. It was very short-term, crowded consolidation rhythm that I was entering in, and in some ways the factors were there, but I suppose it was just not quite. It was still out of balance. Of course, I'd like to believe that every trade I take would be a winner, but I think I can objectively look at this setup and say that, I think I even said it whilst it was on, the trade was on, that it was still a bit messy and the factors were all over the place. So that's what it's like to develop this edge and this feel. It was a good learning experience. Silver's broken out to the downside. It could do whatever it wants now. It's got a long way to go. Of course, the direction isn't strong enough. It's still in the grey area of price action, so I can't enter in a directional trade, but still. We've got news now. I think at 7 o'clock. Silver is showing some signs of direction, but it's unclear. Gold has come back down to the bottom of his afternoon range. Nasdaq is moving sideways. Just trying to remember my main goal of emotional disentanglement. This was a poorly entered trade on my silver. I'm still trying to figure out this directional play. I suppose the rhythm had lost itself by the time I'd entered. Should have entered around here, but I'd entered here. I suppose it hadn't had much time to mature. The direction was difficult to say. Most likely I also wanted the trade to work. Let's come back to the peak of the morning range here. Nasdaq's trying to form some sort of range and structure, but it's just not stable enough. I managed to pick the bottom of silver's temporary move down. I'm still experimenting with directional plays, but I think perhaps a good rule might be if there's a destination nearby, I should just look for road bumps ahead. That's why directional days are so good, I suppose, because they're more decisive. Interesting position on crude at the moment after coming back to the top here. This isn't a nice sort of, the factors are out of line here, but still interesting. Same again with the Nasdaq, it's come all the way back up to retest its high of day at the 810. This isn't my trade. Silver's recovered, I managed to pick the bottom nicely, well done. It seems unlikely we're going to see a setup coming in on anything tonight. I think I was stretching really for all the setups I took today. I don't think I'm just trying to make it sound like I can only pick winners. I think I'm still developing this edge. Still strongly believe in my approach. I just haven't developed it strongly yet. I don't think there's a trade coming tonight. I'm going to stop here. Okay, we are back. I took a poopy trade and I lost. That's because I have a high probability of losing when I enter trades. Silver's coming back up to its high of day and it's built out slightly and now is sort of hovering around its high of day, which is around the 31.050 mark. This trade here, I can see what I was going for. Coming away at 0.10, there hadn't been sufficient tempo or rhythm developed. There was a repeated price that it came to and it did try and turn there, but lost conviction on the down move, and just a typical case of the bracket being amongst too much other price action. Strangely, it kept its tempo and rhythm, but the structure changed. Looking on the 3 minute, it almost looks like the recording wasn't on, so part of me felt like I wasn't taking it seriously. I suppose if you're going to be looking for a bracket trade where there's only one side, it would be good if there wasn't any trending tendencies recently, and if there were, then you would be looking for to go in the direction of the trend. Gold is consolidating down here. It's just a mess at the moment, but 75 is looking nice for a level. Just be nice to see It's had a bit of movement here. These brackets are quite close. Came down hard, recovered well, and now it's sort of tunneling. There's nothing promising coming up soon. This fade from the day zone would have been cool, but that's not really part of my plan. Just would have been a big old move. Nasdaq's recovered hard and looks like it's potentially found a price, 75, 750, 75. No rhythm or structure yet, or rather no rhythm or tempo. Just got one ricochet and one up. This would simply be a bet against a breakout. Gold's had a spike up here, but yeah, very lackluster price action generally. Crude has come to create a zone at the top of its day range. Peaked at the 38. Second peak was at 34. Third peak area is at 33. The tempo, the rhythm is there, the tempo is a bit off, and the structure isn't there on the downside. It's quite a weak move, but it seems unlikely that, well, it's a weak move. I was eyeing up this move on crude, but this isn't my plan. It was just a tempting move. I wouldn't have been able to justify it afterwards though, other than fading a breakout. Similar thing on gold, but not enough rhythm or structure. I'm also half asleep. Gold has just broken out to the downside, only by a few ticks, although it was quite a volatile candle. All of a sudden, this second push down to the low of the day, pushed through, has come back to retest, and now is sitting down at 71. Volatility has gone crazy, so the spectrum is all out of whack now. As I'm falling asleep, how boring the price action is tonight. I'm going to call it there for tonight. I'm falling asleep and there just isn't any opportunities. Not that line up with my plan anyway. I might not even ever watch this. But if I do, hi!